Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the much look forward to RLIS Season 9 draft. We've had 8 seasons before this, but this is going to be a very, very exciting one. We've got plenty of talent signed up across the different tiers, and we have got plenty of exciting managers, both new and old. We've got 4 managers that you will be familiar with from previous seasons. We've got Cans coming back with his 8th season leading the Banshees. We've got Ryan, who's been here since the very beginning, the only manager to have managed the Saints in every single season we've had of RLIS. We've got Rory coming back for the 3rd season now, leading the Wolfhounds. He had a pretty shocking first season this time last year, but he was a little bit better a couple of months ago in season number 8, so he's going to be hoping to rekindle some of that magic. We've also got D Lynch coming back now as the longest serving High Kings manager, overtaking Aiden, with Aiden doing 3 seasons and D Lynch now starting his 4th. He's been on fire in some of the drafts in the past. And then we have one kind of new manager, kind of returning. We've got Wrench joining us. He managed Satanta all the way back in season 5. 4-season hiatus. Now he's back, looking to try and bring that on. And the last manager for an org that we have only seen once in RLIS before, leading the Irish Giants, is Grady. Grady, I'll start sort of introductions with you. Your first time managing. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, should be interesting job here, and I think I've done a good job.
Good to hear. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the community think of your picks as we go through. Wrench, I've got to ask. It's been a long time since you managed. How do you think the landscape has changed between now and back when you were a manager in season 5?
Most of the boys are new, but fresh boys to pick from, fresh dubs to be catching. So should be a good little season.
Excellent. And just before we jump into the draft, Cans, you've been here for a very long time managing the Banshees. You've been manager of the season a number of times, probably the managerial goat of RLIS. What do you think of the new managers we've got this season? Do you reckon they've got a chance?
Well, usually history doesn't really, give them much to hope for, as Rory in his first season made an absolute howler of a draft, and I think Decomp last season, didn't really do as good as he hoped. So be interested to see what grade he does. Wrench, he's been here before, so I wouldn't worry too much about him though.
Interesting stuff. Well, you can see it on your screens now. We are going to be jumping into the draft. So the way this is going to work is we're going to go tier by tier, starting at the bottom in Rising Star, then up to All Star, then up to Superstar, revealing one round of picks at a time. Without further ado, let's jump into things. So in Rising Star, we've got the 2 player managers in this tier. We've got Wrench already locked into that second round for Satanta, and Large Grady, or Giant Grady, as he's now branded himself as he takes over the Giants in that first round. The first pick in Rising Star went to Rory, and he decided to pick up Rad, who's made an appearance in RLIS before, and he's back again as the first round pick in Rising Star for the Wolfhounds. D Lynch was next, and he picked up Taste Rainbows, who's a veteran of RLIS. He's been around the block for years at this point. Cans picked up Kevster in his Rising Star team as the first pick. Wrench, he chose Zyno to join him on his Rising Star roster. Immaculate vibes in that one. And I'm sure Ryan wasn't very happy, because I would have imagined that he probably would have picked Zyno, but he ended up going with Krolik as his first round. Wrench, I want to go with you. Zyno has regularly been a pick for Ryan in previous seasons.
Yeah.
What made you decide to steal him off him this time?
That's my boy. We played together in ERS, as it's now known, with for RLI. So we've got good chemistry. Decent enough boys. So get the vibes going, get some ball played.
Fantastic stuff. Right, we're going to jump straight on into the second round now. The starting with Ryan once again to join Krolik. Starting with Grady. I can count, honest. Starting with Grady, he picked up CK the Operator, joining Large Grady on that roster as his second round pick. Then it was Ryan, and he picked up Big Balls Brown, another veteran of RLIS, been around the block for ages. Wrench, obviously the next, as he was a player manager. Then Cans picked up Phil, or Dangerous Gamer, who's been playing lots of six-mans in the past, back again in Rising Star. D-Lynch picking up Yummy Uranium to go alongside Taste. And then last in this round was Rory to join Rad. He picked up Pep. D-Lynch, going to come to you with this pick of Yummy Uranium. Yummy hasn't played a huge amount of the game in the last couple of months, but do you think he can, start hitting those clips again that we all know him for?
Well, to be perfectly honest, whenever I've played with Yummy in twos, or even just from seeing him play ERS trials, etc., I think he honestly is probably one of the best, and he can easily keep up with a lot of players in this tier. And having such a solid player that won Rising Star last season and Taste alongside him, I think that how quick they're using their speed and their mechanics, I feel like they can do some dangerous damage in this tier this season.
Hopefully that is true for your Rising Stars. Getting into the third round now of players, so it was Rory to kick us off in this round, and he completed his roster with Barzi, an RLI veteran for sure. He's coming in as his third round pick in Rising Star, an exciting one there. D-Lynch filled up his roster with Puff Whale, a newbie to RLIS. I believe he'll be looking to do some damage in this bottom tier. Cans filled up his roster with Little Dutch Boy 9, another new kid on the block, I think, but hopefully he'll be doing some damage. Wrench picked up Sir Scoobaden, Scoob-Igan, got there in the end to finish his roster. Ryan picked Duffy in the third round of his Rising Star team. And the final pick of the draft, because obviously when we were doing the draft, we went in descending order, but the final pick in Rising Star went to Butt Snorkler. Possibly the wildest name in this draft, but he got picked up in the end. Rory, going to come with you. Do you think getting Barzi in the third round of Rising Star was a bit of a steal?
Yeah, I mean, since I kind of had that double pick, whichever way I picked, Pep and Barzi didn't really matter. I just, like, once I saw Barzi was there, it was like I couldn't not pick him. Like, the fact he was still available at that point was kind of insane.
Fair enough. I was definitely surprised to see him down there that low. Obviously, in previous seasons, when he was actually manager of the Wolfhounds before you, he was a player manager in All-Star, which was the second of the 4 tiers in that season. So he's definitely played at a high level before, hasn't been playing a huge amount in the game, but will he be able to get back into his prime for Season 9 of RLS? Rory will definitely be hoping so. Obviously, with the Rising Star tier, that does mean that some people have missed out and haven't been drafted. They'll be going straight into the sub pool and will be called upon first if any of the Rising Star teams need a sub. Those subs, or those players that have gone into the sub pool are Samurai Warrior, Julie, Ether, Tentacles, God of the Beat, and Mr. Fig. Unfortunately, not drafted this season, but make sure to stick around because there usually are 1 or 2 spots that open up during the season. We're going to move on to talking a little bit about this tier and the teams as a whole. Ryan, how do you think your team's shaped up with Krolik, Big Balls, Brown, and Duffy?
Yeah, I think they're all very capable of winning this tier. I think the team chemistry should be pretty good. Went for Duffy to keep repping the Donegal colours, as I often do. Ben's obviously a bit of a staple of the Saints, and Krolik, when he's on it, is probably one of the best players in the tier.
Fair enough. Grady, going to come to you because obviously you were a player manager in this tier, so you would have been building this team around you a little bit. What were you looking for in the teammates that you picked up?
Just pure vibes. I picked CK because I thought it'd be funny more than anything. And then Butt Snorkler, I couldn't look past him. He is that guy.
And obviously there was a bit of pressure on you with that last pick because you were deciding who was going to end up in the sub pool, who was going to be playing, and yeah, I guess did Butt Snorkler just sort of jump out to you?
It was a hard decision, I have to admit. There were some very good players that should have been in the draft, but unfortunately just missed out. But Snorkler looked like on paper he was the man to go for. So that's what I went with.
And Wrench, last sort of question before we move on to All-Star. You've got what I think is a pretty strong team. I think you're a fairly good second round pick, and Zyno is a veteran of Rising Star. How do you think your team compares to some of the other ones in the tier?
Oh, dreadful. I should have been third round. This is a big fucking rough one for me. Like, Scuban should have been maybe 10 picks higher. But, we'll see. We'll see. I might start playing the game again, and we'll go from there.
Fair enough. We're going to move on to All-Star now, the middle tier in the 3 tiers that we have got this season. Just the one player manager in this tier, and it is Ryan in the 3rd round for the Saints. Got the little M in brackets next to it because there is another Ryan in this tier, and it all gets a little bit confusing. So that's manager Ryan down there in the Saints. But the first pick in this tier went to Cans for the Banshees, and these are kinds of the players that may have just missed out on getting picked up in Superstar, the top tier. So maybe some people slightly gutted with this, but it does mean that they're going to be some of the heavy hitters in this tier. Cans started off the tier by picking up Marvels. The Welshman is appearing again in RLIS after some success in previous seasons. Wrench was second. He picked up Pavilion, who dominated the Shooting Star tier last season, alongside 2 of the boys, I think, on the Wolfhounds. Ryan picked up Sosa to join him on his All-Star team. Grady picked up Beanie to go on his Irish Giants All-Star roster. Rory picked up Captain Pudding in the 1st round of All-Star for the Wolfhounds, and D. Lynch rounded things out with Zexel. Cans, I'm going to jump over to you for the first question of this round. Picking up Marvels, you obviously had some choice with all this sort of 1st round of players. You had the first pick. What made you pick up Marvels over the rest of the players there?
Oh, I think his play style is going to wreck people's heads. That's what I'm going for. I'm going for a pure psychological attack on all teams. He's a pure monkey of a player, demo heavy, which I love. And I think I will. My expectation will be like he will carry the team to playoffs at least, and everything else is a bonus.
Very good. Ryan, obviously you picked up Sosa. Was he the sort of profile of player that you were looking to fill your roster up with?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know the majority of the players in this rank too much. I had the unfortunate time of playing against Sosa and Kuki in the 2v2 tournament like 2 weeks ago, and he gave me a bit of a hard time, so I'm hoping it translates into RLIS and 3v3.
We'll jump forward onto this second round now. The second round of picks. First pick went to D. Lynch, and he picked up the other Ryan. So the little P there shows that that's Ryan the player, not the manager. So Ryan 404, as some of you may know him, a very active 6-man's player. Next up, Rory picked up Evoke to join Captain Pudding, which is going to be an interesting one indeed. Grady picked up Cookie to go alongside Benhi on his roster. Ryan finished his roster off with Sark, joining himself and Sosa. Pavilion is joined by Magic on Satanta, and lastly, Technios, I'm not going to try and pronounce that honestly, goes alongside Marvels for the Banshees. Rory, I have to ask, so a couple of seasons ago you picked up a very questionable superstar roster with some players that perhaps didn't gel personality terms. What's the logic between Captain Pudding and Evoke?
To be honest with you, I had a look at who was available. I didn't really consider how they would vibe. So on me a little. But if the team gets along, I think it could be quite good, but that is a big if.
I'm sure you'll definitely be hoping both for your own sanity of having a nice easy managerial season, but also for the success of your team. Jumping into the 3rd round now, Cans had the first pick, and he picked up JTGM to finish off his roster. Setanta picks up Keo, Wrench going with Keo, Magic and Pavilion on his all-star roster. Ryan obviously was next up in his player manager slot. Grady chooses Heavy to go alongside Benhi and Cookie. Rory finishes his slightly controversial roster with Donal, also known as Gluzzer. And the last pick of the round went to D Lynch. He picked up Johnny to join Zexel and Ryan. Cans, we're going to come to you for this one. How do you think your roster's shaped up on the whole in All-Star?
I'm not entirely sure because the Techniosa and JTG, I haven't a notion who they are. So I went for a bit of a gamble. But hopefully, I will do my best to, get the three lads, the chemistry going and help in any way I can. And yeah, a quick point about Roar's thing, because I want to make it like he might be found out as the biggest fraud in this tier, not on skill level, but on the psychological level, because they could absolutely melt, but they could also do damage if they can cop on and focus. So I'd be really interested to see what their team does.
Absolutely. D Lynch, got to ask a little question about availability, because Zexel historically has been a little bit difficult to schedule games with. How do you think that's going to work out with the activity of your other two players?
Yeah, that kind of did play a big part in my picks. Why necessarily some of those other second rounders might not have been picked over Ryan, even though I do think Ryan is also obviously a very good player in his own right. And just him being fairly available does help his cause. But Zexel, compared to previous seasons, from what he has said and what he's been telling in advertising, his availability is a lot better compared to previous seasons. I think it does actually, for once, meet our minimum availability kind of threshold we recommend, Rez. So, and like I think Zexel, he's an enigma. It could be good, could be bad. It'd be interesting to see, but he's the highest peak. I think he has the highest peak in this entire tier. It's just kind of no-brainer to pick him. It's a risk, but I think he can bring that extra level of skill that you just need to edge out this tier potentially.
Potentially Zexel being the difference maker on that High Kings All-Star roster. Wrench, I'm going to ask you just for a second about that Pavilion pick, because obviously he was pretty incredible the last time he played and kind of led his team to victory in Shooting Star. Was that kind of in the back of your mind of picking him up this time?
I have no idea who these three boys are. I've never played them. I've never seen them play. This is purely based on the last time I managed, I picked boys who I know, who I've seen play, and it didn't go too well in my other tiers. So it's time to go completely rogue, throw three boys together, win the tier. It's going to be easier.
Fair enough. Going for some unknown quantities can always produce some magic. Lastly, before we jump onto the fabled land of Superstar Grady, how do you think your team's chances are going to shape up in this tier?
They clear everyone. It's easy. Benny and Cookie play together all the time, and then Chuck Heavy in with them, who most people didn't realize who he was until I picked him. And yeah, your team should clear.
Very good indeed. Now we're going to jump on into Superstar, the top tier of competition here in RLIS. Again, going in descending order in the tier. Once again, two player managers in this tier, D Lynch and Cans, both sitting in that third round like they have done for the last couple of seasons. Ryan was lucky enough to get the first pick of all the players in the draft this season. And there was only one obvious option. He picked up Tomster as his first player. Only a joke. He picked up Simas. Probably the most obvious pick he was ever going to have. Second pick went to Grady, and he picked up Shark, his first season in RLIS, but he's really been showing his class. His peaks in all three game modes are completely mad. Rory was the one who picked up Tomster third. Tomster, I'm sure, fairly relieved that he wasn't the first pick like he was a couple of seasons ago. D Lynch decided to pick up Shadow as the player to join him as the first round pick on his roster. Cans picked up Llama, the Englishman, to join him on the Banshees in that first round. And Wrench finished off the round with Desh. Ryan, going to come to you at the start of this one. Was that the easiest pick you were ever going to have?
I think you'll recall whenever you came to me for the first pick of the draft, there was a bit of mulling over to be done. There's a lot of great players in that first round, and I wouldn't be surprised to see anyone win personally.
Fair enough. And Grady, coming to you with your pick on Shark. It's his first time in RLIS, whereas everyone else in this tier has played at least once before. Do you think that's a bit of a risk, or do you think just with the level of skill that, or the level of talent that this guy's got, that he's gonna slot right into things?
I watched him in that DCC LAN. He knows what he's doing when it comes to freeze. I watched him in the 2v2 tournaments that were going on. He's easily the next best pick after Simas.
Very good. And Cans, I'm a little bit curious about your pick of Llama. Llama, not particularly well known for his wands. Similarly to you, very much a threes player for the most part. Do you think that's a bit of a risk that you're neglecting twos and ones a little bit in favour of better threes players?
Hold on now, Rez. Don't be putting words in my mouth. We all know about me and ones. I couldn't give a damn about ones. Twos, we could snake out a few twos. Rins Lama does play twos a lot. Anyway, like I don't play twos or ones at all. But my second round pick will definitely complement the ones and twos anyway. So I'm not worried at all really about the ones, but we're going to do damage in the threes and twos for sure.
Going to move on to the second round now. Wrench had the first pick in this round, and he picked to join Desh. Obviously, he got two back-to-back picks. To join Desh, he picked up Linsk, who's been around the block for donkey's years in RLIS. I remember way back in, I want to say it was Season 3, he took the win in Superstar there. Cans finished off his roster. Joining Llama and himself is My Parable. And he, as he alluded to just a second ago, that is potentially where some of his gains in ones and twos will be coming from. D Lynch picked up Tommy D27. Funnily enough, the guy who goes to the same university as me. He picked up Tommy to join himself and Shadow as his second round pick. Rory picked up Nuss to join Tomster on the Wolfhounds. Then Grady picked up SAM, his first time in RLIS. He's joining Shark on his roster. And then Ryan picked up Ben Usher to play alongside Simas in his superstar team. Wrench, come to you with this one. Linsk and Desh, both fairly safe pairs of hands, would you say?
Absolutely. The lack of scouting I did for my All-Star tier, I poured into Superstar. I've had boys roaming the countries looking for boys who are going to absolutely run this tier. And these are the two that I found. Absolute fucking underground goats. And they're about to run it up.
Very good. D Lynch, your pick of Tommy. Do you think it was a little bit of a surprise that he was still left at this point in the draft?
Yes, I just have to say, considering all the players around them as well, I think by far, I think he is the best player in that second round. He won. Now, I know he had Simas and Cans on his team last time, but still, you still have to be a good player and you still have to be able to do all these things to win. He has a very high peak in 1v1, and he's a good high peak in twos and threes as well. He's just a very solid overall player, and I think he'll really kind of complement the team that I've kind of already put together.
Excellent. Now moving on to the third round here, the last little bit of this reveal of the draft. Joining Simas and Ben Usher on the Saints is the Swede Cookie Jr., who joins him to finish off that roster. Grady picks up newbies, or having picked up Shark and SAM, two newbies to RLIS, he went with Epics, who's been playing for as long as I can remember, pretty much. Unfortunately for Tomster, he's got to put up with me as his third once again on the Wolfhounds, finishing off that roster of Tomster, Nuss, and myself. Then obviously the two player managers of D-Lynch and Cans for the High Kings and the Banshees respectively. And then the last pick in the Superstar tier was Waffle, as he is picked up by Wrench for Satanta. Rory, I'll jump over to you because you were the manager who's had the misfortune of ended up picking me. What do you think our team are going to be doing this season?
I'm reading chat at the moment. I saw Thompson and Nuss are quite happy with the pick so far. So, at least you seem like you're all going to vibe together. So, no matter what, I think that's all right. I think the skill wise, the team is going to do fine. So, I think it'll be a good season.
Hopefully, considering I'm on that team, but I can't promise you anything, especially in 1v1. I'm going to come over to you, Cans. How do you think your roster's shaped up now? Obviously, we've seen that Parable pick. Are you confident?
Oh, I'm confident in threes and maybe a bit of twos. We haven't a hope of winning the ones game all season. I can tell you that for a fact. But look, it's all grand. No, I'm very happy. The chemistry is there. We're going to have a laugh during the season. It's going to be class. Anyway, looking forward to it.
Excellent. And Grady picking up Shark, SAM, and Epics, kind of a blend of experience and youth. How do you think that's going to pan out?
The chemistry from Shark and Epics playing at DCC together is a big factor in why I picked Epics for the third round there. And I think he can guide the other two into their first season of RLIS as well.
Awesome. And lastly, in this tier, Ryan picking up Ben Usher and Cookie Jr. to join Simas. Obviously, last season, Simas turned out to be a little bit of a cheat code. Do you think he's going to prove to do that again this season with two new teammates?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's always going to be a hard man to stop. According to a few people in the chat, I am trying my best to stop him. So, we'll see how that goes.
Awesome stuff. So now we've gone through the 3 tiers of the draft and we'll jump into some little team roundups. First one is Ryan, once again, his rosters, if in case you remember, in Rising Star, he picked up Krolic, Big Balls, Brown and Duffy. In All-Star, picked up Sosa, Sark, and he's the third as the player manager. And in Superstars, we just saw Simas, Ben, Usher, and Cookie Jr. Ryan, do you reckon manager of the season's on the cards?
I think it would be rude if I didn't win 2 in a row. So we're definitely going for it.
Brilliant. And how do you think there's one roster in particular that has the best chance of going far?
Probably the Superstar roster, but if I could pick any of them to win, I would like the All-Star team to win personally, because if I'm not mistaken, I think we have gone back to back to back. So to win All-Star 4 times in a row would be quite nice.
Impressive stuff. So there are the Saints, everybody. Now moving on to the new org, at least for the first time since season 3, managed by Grady. He has picked up Shark, SAM, and Epics in Superstar, Benny, Cookie, and Heavy in All-Star, and then himself as the player manager, CK, and Butt Snorkler in Rising Star. Do you think any of those tiers really jump out to you where you've got a really good chance of winning, Grady?
I think All-Star, a lot of people are going to underrate that trio as a team. I've heard some people say some stuff about them, and I don't agree with a lot of it. And then Rising Star, I just don't want to annoy CK for the season, so that's why he's in my team.
And do you reckon that you've picked some players that are relatively easy to manage, perhaps helpful in your first season?
CK will be easy to manage in Rising Star, but Snorkler I've never spoken to in my entire life, so I don't know what to expect from him. The All-Star team itself, I have no issues with any of them, to my knowledge anyway. And Superstar, it's easy just to kind of let them do their own thing.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to the third of our 6 orgs, it is the Wolfhounds. Rory picked up Tomster, Nuss, and myself, Rez, in his Superstar team. Captain Pudding, Evoke, and Donal in All-Star, and then Rad, Pep, and Barzi in Rising Star. Do you think you've maybe got some bargain picks there, Rory, especially with Barzi down that low? Do you reckon you've got some good players in there?
Yeah, like as you say, especially in Rising Star, I think I've gotten 3 really good picks there. I think like myself being a player around that skill level, it helps to know who those players are who performs well at that level. Especially having Rad last season as well, he did excellent on my Rising Star team with CK and Phil. So in my mind, he was a no-brainer to pick. Pep, I haven't played with him in a while, but he's always been solid. And of course, Barzi. I mean, while he was managing the org a couple of seasons ago, he was All-Star himself. So having him as a third round pick is insanity.
Brilliant stuff. And do you think there's a particularly strong team that you've got out of the 3?
I think Rising Star is my big hope for potentially winning a tier. Superstar, I think you guys can also do a bit of damage. And as Kans was saying earlier, if my All-Star team gets along, which is a very big if, it could do a bit of damage, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Excellent, and best of luck for the season, particularly for myself on your superstar team. In case anyone's looking before we go through those 3 more orgs, there is a straw poll in the chat. Click on that and you can select who you think the biggest fraudager is, the manager that's frauded their way through the draft the most. Who do you reckon that is? Because we would love to see your responses. Moving on to the 4th org here, it's D Lynch's boys. It is the High Kings. Shadu, Tommy D27 and D Lynch on the superstar roster. Zexel, Ryan the player and Johnny in All-Star, and then Taste Rainbows, Yummy Uranium, and Puff Whale in Rising Star. D-Lynch, I would say, looking at these, none of your rosters particularly stand out, but in a good way, in the sense that all 3 of them look incredibly solid. Are you happy with how your draft went on the whole?
As a whole, I'm incredibly happy with how the draft went. I don't think I've had any particular stinker in any of the tiers. And obviously, look, considering all the draft positions in Superstar, I think I've kind of had a bit of a blinder compared to, obviously, when you don't get Simas, you can only do so much, but obviously I did very well there. And I think All-Stars, it's going to be a question mark, seeing how Johnny does as a 3rd rounder, but considering looking at his ranks and maybe what potentially he's done, he could be nearly as good as a lot of those 2nd rounders, it seems, going into this. And what more do I have to say about Rising Star? Yummy, very mechanical and quick, very well known. Puff Whale, played with them in the solo standard tournament recently and very much impressed me, considering they're a 3rd rounder as well. It's going to be incredible. And Taste won Rising Star last season. Taste is going to do Taste things, and I think Taste's going to be one of, if not one of the best players in the tier.
Best of luck to the boys in blue and silver. Now our 5th of the 6 orgs is lovely Cans, the veteran of RLIS, multiple time manager of the season. Cans, do you think this has been one of your better or one of your worst drafts?
No, I think it would probably be one of my better ones. I think they're not like crazily, I probably don't have a massive carry on either tier. Very good 1st rounders, but like maybe not to take over the whole tier. Not sure. Yeah, a few unknown players in there. But I'm happy with the balance of my rosters anyway. A lot of people, as I see in the chat, are saying oh, I've won All-Star already, with Tech and JTG. So I'm looking forward to how Tech and JTG mesh with Marvel's Superstar as well. Us 3 are going to have a laugh playing Superstar. Really, I think we can do some damage to teams. I think we make playoffs anyway easy. And my Rising Star, Kev and Phil together, I think will be a dangerous duo. And I will have to wait and see what little Dutch boy brings to the board in Rising.
Very good. And the last of our managers, the only man, or the relatively new guy on the block, I should say, managed in Season 5, back now in Season 9, Wrench. Did you enjoy getting back into the swing of doing a draft?
I love it. It's arguably the best part of RLIS. And, I couldn't have had a better time.
So on one hand, going for vibes in your Rising Star tier, but do you think you've got some pretty promising teams in the other 2 tiers?
It'll be yet to be seen. There's some players there who are some of the players of all time, and if they all click, if everything stays the way I imagine it will be, then the boys will be eating. They will be eating very well.
Excellent stuff, and that is the 6th org for this RLIS season. Just want to encourage people to get their votes for the biggest fraudager in. At the moment, Rory is leading the charge. I think it's a little bit unjust, but obviously he does have the reputation of being the biggest fraudager. Rory, what do you have to say to that one?
I can't really defend it too much after my first season, but I feel like last season especially, I've earned, I've recovered a bit. We'll ignore my All-Star teams since that just seems to be a running theme now. But I got my first tier win last season, so I'm just hoping to build upon that.
Building upon pretty strong foundations with your performances last season. D Lynch and Wrench also getting a couple of votes in the fraudulent poll, but notably, everyone seems to have some confidence in Ryan. Not a single person who's responded to this forum reckons that Ryan has frauded the draft. Ryan, is that a good result?
That's a win right there. I don't even care how the season goes now. I've won in the hearts of the people.
Very good stuff. And now, just before we round things off, I want to hear the team that you think has done the best, or the manager that's picked the best players, that's drafted the best. In previous seasons, we've had lots of upsets of teams that have done that seem good on paper but have fallen apart in practice. So it will remain to be seen what really happens in this, and it's a very mixed bag as the first vote starts to come in. Cans with 3, Rory with 3, D Lynch now up there on 2. Cans, do you think you agree with the community consensus that you've drafted pretty well?
Well, I think I would like to agree. Like, you know, I've made my name in RLS, so like it's not really surprising to see a couple of people vote for me. But I'm surprised how everyone voted for Rory being the biggest fraud, and then he's like tied with me in the best picks overall. So I would question the community on these votes to be sure, and I guarantee the 20 people who voted on the fraud pick were 20 people from Donegal. So like, considering Ryan didn't get a single one, so no, it's going to be interesting. I think all orgs, you know, drafted well. If I had to pick, probably the least, like the most fraud, probably Grady, just only slightly Grady, but I don't think there's ridiculous fraud picks, you know, this season.
And that is about all we have got time for the RLIS Season 9 draft. Remember to keep an eye out for your DMs. The managers will be sending out the invites to your organisation servers in the next day or so. Get scheduling your games nice and early. Fixtures will be announced later this evening. And that is about all I have to say. Remember that we have the Gamer Fest qualifier starting off at 6 o'clock just in 20 minutes time, and then we will be going live later this evening with some matches in that. Thank you everyone very much for watching. It's going to be a fantastic season of RLIS yet again. I've been Rez. Thank you to the 6 managers for joining me on the desk this evening. Have a lovely evening. Take care and good night.